Hey, hi, hello. Today, we're gonna be talking about Mean Girls. You know, those stereotypical bitches that every movie and TV show about high school likes to have. The pretty girls you love to hate. And look, I love them too. I know that they get the biggest support and people love these characters. But we're gonna talk about how they demonize femininity and how they come from a trait rooted in queer coding. Yes, I will be using the word queer in a reclaimed sense because your girl is talking about this topic because she happens to be a lesbian. So you may be like, okay, Mean Girls aren't queer coded. They're like the most feminine, pretty people ever. Yeah, but then the thing is, they have a cult following of lesbians. I would know. So, first of all, what is a mean girl? Boop-a-doo. Well, she wears pink usually.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
She's usually blonde, always in heels, isn't a virgin, but isn't too slutty, but also is really sexy and criticizes everyone around her for not being as pretty or as rich as her, or for being too slutty, or being too much of a prude. She just criticizes every other girl who isn't like her. First of all, we can kind of see a few factors starting to form that I think are important to talk about. These women are rich and are almost always white. There might have been girls who with the exception of this, see like Hannah Montana, but for the most part, just think like white, sexy, blonde girl. Like that's basically all it is. Now, I've talked about femininity a few times on this channel, and let's be honest, I will be talking about it again, especially because I want to talk about the female gaze. No, not the gaze, the eyesight thing. I'm always thinking about the female gaze, though. Sorry, I'm always. Sorry. Can you tell that it just came out? Can you? Basically, we gotta ask a question. What is a woman in media? What is femininity in media? So, I'm kind of drawn back to the image of the perfect 50s housewife. I don't know why I went British there. So she's got a rich husband who financially supports her in her beautiful suburban life. She is gorgeous, again, perfect proportions, perfectly dressed, perfect face. She is delicate and subservient and always dressed to perfection. She is the queen of the PTA, the belle of the ball, the gem owned by a man. But this woman is not a mean girl. Rather, the mean girl is an antagonistic spin on the character that shows a woman who uses the same feminine qualities to trap the people, the men around her. The housewife was always the precious gem, but this one wields her desirability as a weapon to instead own her male partners and the people around her. She is therefore seen as an aspiration to the women who fear her for her prowess in seducing other men and charming authorities by pretending to be delicate when she is actually not. She uses her power of femininity as a weapon, which makes her mean and conniving. This therefore points to us that femininity is undesirable because it is wielded to use people around you and to hurt men. The mean girl is almost a direct response to the patriarchy for taking our power away, and is a woman's way to take power back. And yet, it's seen as villainy. And these movies are made for teenage girls. However, the antagonist, who is inherently stereotypical feminine and holds the power of authority, is seen as a thing of hatred. The main character, the shy, awkward girl who does care about what people think of her and is on the bottom of the food chain, is desirable because she rejects femininity. She is also made to be more relatable to us because not all of us are these pretty feminine beings, and we're told that society still wants us to look like that, when in reality, all the media made for us is about rejecting that, even though the main character is always like super attractive. All you're doing for little me is either one, you're adding to my eating disorder, or two, giving me pretty girls to confuse me more as a young child. That's all it's doing. You may be like, Anne, you're being problematic. Are you saying the antagonist is actually some girl boss who's like wielding her power in the world? You know, most people do not have access to that power. And that's true. The mean girl is not relatable. I think the closest mean girl is to being relatable, maybe like Cher from Clueless. And that's if you look past the references to her socioeconomic status and focus on a girl who's trying to be herself. I think Santana from Glee is kind of an example with her home life, but other than that, because she's a lot meaner than what most of us see ourselves as. So I'm very aware that these are rich girls. Like, obviously, they're not going to be relatable to everyone. They're not relatable to me. But we're talking about them because of the inherent queer coding of them and the demonization of femininity. And it's never really a demonization of wealth, let's be real here, because usually in these stories it's okay to fall in love with like a rich guy. And that way the main character is very privileged and the main character is usually always white. The problem with the mean girl trope is that it doesn't really address the problem of mean girls in the first place or justify why these girls exist. It doesn't really talk about race and class, and the bigger issue with it is the trope pits women against each other and can often equate the mean girl's look to her personality, or that ultra femininity is in some way evil. The fact that the mean girl does not care about you or your opinions is wrong, even though in the end the main girl is usually taught to love herself. The mean girl already did. So while I'm in no way saying that we should have to like the mean girl or forgive their actions, I am saying that maybe there is something wrong with demonizing the way that they present themselves. But of course, the trope isn't old, not in the slightest. So let's take a look at classic mean girls, man-eaters, and the representation of queer women, mainly lesbians, because let's be honest, there's a lot of bisexual erasure in the world and pansexual erasure. Post-Hays Code. I'm gonna add this note in right here. I've been reading the Arrestio for one of my classes this semester, and I see some of the earlier tropes of the mean girl found in Clytemnestra, who is the wife of Agamemnon, because she is seen as more androgynous because she picks up an axe to defend herself and is the true leader, but obviously she's a woman, so when she kills her husband and takes over the throne, she's tyrannical. So we have things that symbolize androgyny and doing more masculine things, which is something that is always associated with lesbians because, you know, we like women, so obviously we all have to be more masculine and butch, even though I am a pretty princess, so that's clearly not true.
I've never met a lesbian. Do you all wear vests?
I'm not wearing one right now.
Stereotype busted!
I think a lot of the older associations of a lesbian woman in the film sort of morphed into our very ultra feminine mean girl, because it used to be breaking the rules of being feminine was evil. So we're gonna start talking about some androgynous woman and moving on to how it became ultra femininity was a more demonized side. And this starts, it doesn't start, but it's always a good place to start in movies about queer coding. The Hays Code, my beloved. So first of all, what is the Hays Code? Oh, it's just, you know, the being of my entire freaking existence on this puny little planet known as Earth. So, you know, movies used to be cool, used to be run by women, used to be tackling big issues, and then, you know, Christians got mad because movies were not family-friendly fun, and they still do that today. Excuse me. Getting over a cold. And so legal drama ensued. The court decided that companies were not subject to the same laws of free speech and would therefore need to follow a code that was designed under the common American values. This code had rules about race, women, and sexuality. Well, not explicitly on the sexuality. It had rules against sex perversion, which at the time assumed homosexuality. Anything outside a good Christian idea was seen as bad. The ones important to us today are the treatment of a deviant woman and obviously the homosexuality thing. So first of all, if a woman was not good and sweet and loyal to her man, and if she didn't have a man, you know, you'd have to kill her or make her life miserable and she'd end up lonely and sad and pathetic. This again wasn't a long outline, but more about movies having to follow the Christian ideal, which was no unwed, deviant, or sexual women because, as we all know, women do not have sexual desire and women-loving women do not exist. So what happens when you want to add representation or you have a political agenda that is unfavorable towards the gays? Well, you have specific codes, you know? Like the small, effeminate man, the woman who's always wearing a suit and has short hair. Of course, this finds its way into our villains and men. If coy and overly obsessed with wealth or women corrupting young girls. Scandalous. We all know the evil queen from Snow White, a movie that is still enjoyed today and still seen as a story for little girls. While the other two Disney princess movies feature evil female protagonists like Lady Tremaine and Maleficent, who do fit this type of woman I'll be talking about, the older, refined woman with a biting way of speaking. It's good to see the problem at the root and how the evil queen is, well, evil. Now, while she may not be the first example of the mean girl trope, or even the best example, I'm using her because, let's be honest, Disney influences everything ever. And don't get me started on the constant use of the LGBT community. Like, my god. Your movies that aren't gay are gayer than the ones that are. Like, Disney, come on. Come on. Luca was there. You could've done it. Let's look at the evil queen. On her checklist, she is rich, white, dresses in fine clothes, she is manipulative, changing into an old hag to trick Snow White, and is confident in herself, believing herself to be the fairest of them all. She is the woman who envies the main character's beauty and uses her cunning instead of force for the princess's downfall. But now that I've established that she's kind of like a mean girl today, I should note that she is similar to other lesbian coded characters at the time. I'm noting this because my mom didn't believe me when I told her this, and this is my revenge, a YouTube video in which no one will watch. Woo! The most famous example I can pose is her similarity to Dracula's daughter, which, look at the way they're framed. Older woman, Dracula's daughter kidnaps a woman, Janet, and has tension, wanting to drink her blood, which, let's be honest, is really sexual, because vampires are gay, we all know this. There's like a trend in older books of older women preying on younger, probably bisexual, innocent daisies. Vampire is Regina George, the young lady is Katie Heron. Similarly, but with less tension, we have a predatory older woman in Snow White. Now, do I think she's in love with Snow? No. Do I think she falls into the trope of being a queer-coded woman? Yes. Yes, definitely. She's an older woman preying on a younger girl. She takes her out so she is unable to be a princess or to get married until a hetero relationship saves her. And honestly, if we just look at Disney female villains, the trend continues. Sleeping Beauty was made in 1959, which is weird. I thought it was made a lot earlier than that. 101 Dalmatians in 1961, and later we have Ursula and Mother Gothel. But this trope has to combine with another one, because these women are all older and more refined and mother's age. They're MILFs. They're just MILFs. So we have her mean girl, but she's not the most feminine right now. The idea is she's old, and once she's back and she despises the younger, pure, sweet girl for her beauty, while she is ruthless. But these beautiful, perfect women and the older, malevolent ones become one and the same. So, Hays Code says you gay? Be evil. But what if not gay? Sometimes people wanted to portray a sexual promiscuity type bad woman, which wasn't associated with lesbians. It was just like, oh my god, women have sexuality? That's evil. So we found our other trope I talked about. The deviant woman. The femme fatale. There was a glamorous past of what a good woman was, of course. You still had your actually good ones, you know, the ones who were still feminine and like glamorous. But then you had your Marilyn Monroes, Elizabeth Taylors, and Marlene Dietrich. Dietrich especially was bisexual and liked to play gender roles on screen, often ended up in femme fatale-esque roles. Here she was desirable, but morally objectionable. femme fatales may not even be villains, but their youth and seduction and something the elder women of the past couldn't really get. But both of them still have those long, sauntering entrances. The flaring of capes as they walk through the door with a glass of wine. So, this femme fatale trope leads us to the 70s, and we start getting actual mean girls. Some people might say the mean girl trope starts with Heathers. I think it's one of the better known films, and that's why Heather Chandler is seen as the first modern mean girl. So now we have a new definition because our mean girl changed again. She now is specifically an it girl, a popular girl in school. This now fits well because, as explained in another video, teenage girls are the market. And if they're in high school, you want your stories in high school. So the trend kind of gets beginnings in movies with Grease, at least one of the most famous examples I can think of before Heathers. Rizzo is a titular mean girl. She's rude to Sandy. She's this feminine appeal, and people are like, well, Sandy is like more traditionally feminine. Rizzo is in the pink coat. I'm gonna wear like closer cut clothes, like femme fatale-esque feminine. And she isn't innocent, unlike Sandy, a sweet, nerdy girl that's a cheerleader and your perfect girl next door. They also give us a distinction. The girls who are good are usually virgins, who may have sex in the course of the movie or have a lack of sexual experience. Therefore, the mean girl is still demonized for being sluttier than the main character, which is just wrong. It's just weird to be demonizing people for how much sex they have. This is kind of the first. And then we have Chris Hargensen from Carrie. But again, these things are like background to the main story. They incite something, but in main movies, I'm gonna talk about like Mean Girls, the main antagonist of the story, is about the drama between the mean girl and the main girl. So I still could talk about Heathers, but it's not the gayest thing. No, the gays love it because it is about murder and has some fun lines. But Heather Chandler is killed pretty quickly. This mean girl thing brings up something that Grease doesn't really do because Sandy doesn't become like top dog. She just changes for a man because, you know, sexism. The hair tie in Heathers is important though. Whoever wears Heather Chandler's hair tie is Queen Bee. And the person wearing it would become evil or die until Veronica gets it. She's clearly done with this high school BS. And thus, when the movie is about mean girls, there may be a sort of thing of the perfect girl being seduced into evilness, which kind of returns to the older movies where our more androgynous, old feminine woman would seduce the young bisexual flower into evilness. Same thing here, just with a hair tie. If you want me to name every mean girl, I won't, but these movies are good enough, at least in my opinion, to take us up to the mean girl film to end all mean girl films. Mean Girls. Now, Mean Girls is my favorite movie. I don't know if that's obvious. Is it problematic? Extremely. The way it treats Asian people especially is bad. There's no way around it. It's bad, it's racist, it's awful. This movie is kind of a culmination of everything we've been talking about too, which makes it perfect to talk about. Regina George has femme fatale energy, and she's also the love of my life. She's smart and cunning and higher social position than our sweet, naive girl, Katie Heron, who she tricks and takes under her wing. She's also a queen bee. She dates Aaron, not because she likes him, but because it will make Katie mad and make Katie understand her place is under Regina. She has that power, and then Katie Heron destroys her and becomes her. Something about becoming your same-gendered enemy and kind of living their lavish lifestyle gives me a very, am I in love with them or do I want to be them? Separate piece. Although Katie is very straight. You know what's not straight? Regina George bullying her best friend for years for maybe being a lesbian. Like, that's a little weird. What made her do that? Why oust her unless maybe she was projecting her own feelings onto that? There's a reason a lot of queer women like Regina George. It's because she can be read that way. Do I think it was intentional? No. I've seen the way Tina Fey writes lesbians. It definitely wasn't. Also, at the end of the movie, she doesn't change too much. She doesn't really care what other people think about her. She just wanted power, and we see that it probably came from like things she needed in therapy. She gets that later when she joins lacrosse. Guys, yeah, do I know straight people who play lacrosse? Yes, I do. But that, guys, come on. And so we get to another classic, like, film for the gays, Jennifer's Body. This movie is not gay. They kiss. They literally kiss. Jennifer and Needy kiss. It's also a movie that mainly queer women like. It's also like the tension is the same. They're best friends. Jennifer attacks the people Needy likes, and Jennifer is beautiful and kind of mean, and she can get any man she wants, but she doesn't want them. She wants to take them away from who she actually loves. And obviously this is like the demon inside of her too. And then Needy gets Jennifer's power, and it's like the new I am become you now. And she kills the people who assaulted Jennifer, and she gets the revenge. There's like still love there. And Jennifer is the stereotypical mean girl who again is cunning, smart, not a virgin, but she gets taken advantage of by men. And for the rest of the movie, she doesn't care about them. She uses them. She's been hurt, which is just close to the experience of being a woman. And finally, the mean girl who is always coded as such is gay. With Jennifer's Body, in modern day, we get the gays. Finally. Not all the mean girls, but most famous, I can give Santana, who also stands out as being a mean girl of color, which, you know, is rare, but she does fall into some bad tropes because of that. But she's literally the best character in Glee still. She has the qualities for looking mean girl. She's gorgeous, she's popular, and she's actually a lesbian. Mean girl is actually gay. Then we have Riverdale. Yes, I know Riverdale, you're abhorred, my abhorred. But their main girl, Cheryl Blossom, is a lesbian with a bisexual girlfriend, kind of like Brittany and Santana. But anyway, we also have mean girls who are gay, and they've like secured themselves in the mean girl pantheon. I mean, Santana has. Cheryl, time will tell. I think probably she'll be mentioned, but I don't know. Riverdale does suck. But there are still straight mean girls and everything, so why do they feel gay? Also, the ones who are gay are kind of written poorly sometimes, because they're all mean. It's why is the mean girl gay? And lesbians are stereotypically very mean. I myself am an example of this, unfortunately. It's not a stereotype I've broken yet, but we'll get there one day. But with that, why do straight mean girls feel gay? And why are they attractive? Someone tell me. Not all the gays like femininity, but the gay quality to them comes from the complete lack of, not necessarily conformity, but they're not insecure, like the insecure straight man character. They pick up men as status symbols. Regina George steals Aaron because Katie likes him. She doesn't care. And then they become each other, which, you know, as a lesbian or woman-loving woman, it's something like, am I envious of this girl who or girl, or do I want to date her? And that's why I like these mean girls, because they are feminine, but they aren't tied down to the judgments that us other girls, like literally everyone else except for the mean girl, give them. The male gaze looks at them as shallow because these women use them. They may not be good people, but they're powerful, and that's kind of attractive, especially in a society where people are against us. They, unlike the main girl, don't look to others for acceptance. They know they're worth it and force other people to respect it. Unlike the girl who gets awkward around a guy and dumbs themselves down or kills someone for them, the mean girl does what they want to do, which is great. Don't do things for a man. Do things because you want to do them. So when people are like, the mean girl trope should die, I partially agree, because it is sexist. It's clear to me, at least, they like what they do. And at the end of Mean Girls, Regina George plays her cross, and we already know she's still kind of the same after the bus. She just does this now. The shy, quiet girl is also sexist because she hates the other girls. She thinks she's better than them. She's not. The mean girl is freeing for those who do not associate with the main girl because she doesn't care, and because, unlike the main girl who spends most of the movie chasing after a man, the mean girl doesn't do that. She doesn't go through the journey of trying to fit in. She just does, and we shouldn't have to. As queer people, don't fit in like all the time. The mean girl might not vibe with butch lesbians or non-binary ones, but they might still see her as awesome. So, why is the mean girl gay? She always was. She came from a trope that vilified her, and as we all know, the gays like the villains better. So, with that, I have been Anne. This has been Why is the Mean Girl Gay? And I will see you next time. Goodbye.